Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is the Greek. The first episode of the Forbidden documentary is complete. It's available for you to download right now. It's only $5. Just click that link in the description. Go to our website. If you are a Rokfin subscriber, you can watch it directly on Rokfin. You can now also get Forbidden Knowledge News 5 days a week live on Rokfin, Rumble, and our website. That website is forbiddenknowledge.news. That is also the home of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. That's where we feature some of your favorite podcasts. And you can always get every new episode of Forbidden Knowledge News on Rokfin, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Sign up on Rokfin. It is where you get our premium content, and you get all the premium content from every creator on Rokfin. Just click that link in the description or go to rokfin.com/FKN+. Today I want to welcome the Greek. He created content that is geared towards helping people contend with the pertinent questions of society. He seeks to rationalize the state of the world and make one more aware of things which are obvious yet glossed over. Greek, welcome. How you doing?
Greetings. I'm doing just as I always do. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you, man. I've been looking forward to this. After listening to your podcast and some interviews, I thought it would be especially enlightening to talk with you about the multi-layered nature of reality and see what lies beyond the surface. And the more that I've learned, the less I realize I ever knew, which really makes this experience here even more magical. And there's a lot to get into when attempting to unpack what we perceive as reality. But before we get into this is your first time on. Let the audience know more about yourself and what led you down your path.
Oh, man. It's very simple. I'm just visiting, taking notes. You guys are on your own. I have, said my podcast, this is all these things that you find on the stupid rectangle, I call it, are done by others. I am not a public speaker. I have no interest in being an orator or even an informer. But through the years, at a very young age, by the way, maybe the age of 9 or 10, which is 5-6 decades ago, it's funny, people think I sound like I'm 15, but I'm in my 6th decade. I asked some family members, what is the truth? And they pulled me aside and just smacked the shit out of me and said, don't ever ask that question again. And I figured out what I wanted to do in life at around 9 years old, right? Which was look for the truth. And what I found out was everything is in front of us. We just can't see it. Like, for example, if you read English, which is the Romanized alphabet, well, most of the European countries use the Romanized alphabet. So if you don't speak French or Spanish, you could read the Spanish and French newspaper all day because it has the same alphabet, but you won't understand a dang thing in it, right? So I get into technically accessing. Now, when I say technical, meaning acquiring technique, method, perception, that word is something that people shy away from. I want to get into it a little more later. But just accessing what's around you, and you'll see learning the language is, you already know it. It's just your perception that's been thwarted. And again, I have no intention ever. I've been doing this is my 3rd decade speaking publicly. No intention of ever being an orator or a speaker. Like I said, others put together things for me to use as a platform. Very appreciative just to get things out. And it has affected many people. I've gotten thousands of emails on how their lives have changed. Basically not because I said it, because they heard it and they did something.
Well, let's dive head first into the discussion of what is the nature of our reality. There's really 2 big schools of thoughts that often pass here through the show, and one is that our reality has been hijacked in some way, and this is where the nefarious aspects come in and the pieces that don't fit together. And that we could have a different type of reality if those layers of awareness were peeled away, and we could see the entities that are manipulating and causing us to have the dark side, if you will. And there's others that believe that dark side is part of our growing and learning experience here, that it's supposed to be that way, that we couldn't evolve if we didn't have the duality here. And I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, let's do it backwards. There's no duality. Everything is a pressure gradient. In other words, when you have a high pressure, something pushing, it's going to move in the direction where there's less push. If you have two things that are pushing equally, there's no movement. So the duality that we call duality is really a pressure movement. Once you understand that, we can get into what gravity really is and how the human body works and thoughts and all that. The other thing I want to mention, hijacking. Okay, very simple. The hijackees are going along with it. Give you an example. Years ago, we've heard stories of freight trains of prisoners, thousands of prisoners on freight trains being moved to a prison camp with only 5 guards. Even if they have machine guns, so what? Overtake them. So what happened was they were able to have 5 people corral 20,000 people into a dark place. And the people doing that, the hijackers, said they must be subhuman because there's only 5 of us and 20,000 of them, and they feel helpless. Why don't like 50 of them jump the guards? Okay, so you sacrifice yourself. So what? Bacteria and yeast do that all the time. They sacrifice members of the colony so the rest of the colony preserves. So in other words, those that have hijacked with such small numbers and small impetus are looking at the results and saying, we're probably doing the right thing because look how many of them there are and how few of us, and they're going along with it.
Right.
So I will never blame the quote unquote elites or the system, because I'll tell you for sure, this is through rational reason, statistics, history. Imagine the most evil dictatorship. It won't last for 3 days if the people don't go along with it. The majority of the people don't go along with it, right?
Right.
So I don't see the hijacking aspect. I think that the hijackers are more like opportunists, right? They've recognized that the people are apathetic, indifferent, whatever, and ignorant, and they rely on the people's ignorance. And people are very reliable, unfortunately. So, and that's how I see it. So yes, the hijacking term and the duality term, those things are used often. The simulation, simulacrum, all that stuff is used. And yes, it's a method. We can talk about how to technically access reasoning to that. But before we get into a duality, the only time you'll find duality, there are 2 races on the planet. This includes animals as well, male and female. If, for example, if you take all of the different races, green, blue, yellow, black, red, whatever you want to see, all the males have more in common than they do with any of the females, regardless of your. So there are actually 2 races. Anyone who's been in a relationship knows they're very, from physical appearance to the hormones, the chemistry, the thoughts. So those are the 2 races. So when I talk about race, I have to distinguish, because if we get into some of the quote unquote medical, I want to distinguish that as well.
Let's go a little bit further into the dynamics behind why we just allow ourselves to be corralled into this false reality.
Well, I'll tell you, it's how false is it? I'll give you an example. Back in the 60s, I had a grandmother come over from Greece, and she was watching on the television a black and white version of cowboys and Indians, and the cowboys were shooting the Indians and on TV, and she was crying on how people were dying on the television, right? She actually thought people were being shot, right, and dying. And usually she came from an old world country. When you see people dying, it's a very sad thing. So it was real to her because she didn't know. Here's another example. You have these huge skyscrapers with 4-inch thick steel, whatever, and they tell the people that 19 Arab hijackers with box cutters vaporized the World Trade Center, right? That's pretty real. And people say, well, that's not the official story, Greg, because give me the official story. Tell me if that makes any more sense. You see, so it doesn't have to make sense for it to be real to people. You see?
Right, right. Now, earlier you had brought up the concept of NPCs and this simulated type of reality. Is that what we are dealing with? Is this a simulation for consciousness evolution? Is this something that we could have possibly created for ourselves? And do you really think that most of the people that we surround ourselves with on a daily basis don't really have what you would call a divine spark?
The divine spark is there. I'll give you an example. You see all this destruction going on. for example, in real life, and also you see it depicted in fiction. You know how fiction depicts real life and vice versa sometimes. They have these things back in the days before CGI, they had movie sets. They built a miniature city and they blew it up, right? It was a scaled version, right? And it was done for an effect, simply just as that, right? Now, if we go back to the divine spark, if you start looking at the various layers, what is real, like for example, someone who never doesn't understand the concept of television, Hollywood, and scripts and people dying in a theatrical mode thinks that it's real. That's real to them. Then there's another layer where that has to copy what it really goes on when people are dying to a certain extent, right? And then there's another layer to that. Why are people dying, right? So there's many levels of truth. When I say NPC, that's just a popular catch term now that people understand. One of the most popular catch terms that you hear now is they're awake. People are waking up.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it doesn't make a hell of a difference. Why? Okay, let's just use some pejoratives here. If you go to sleep stupid, guess what? You're going to wake up what? You're going to wake up stupid also. So in other words, if you lack certain knowledge, technique, or abilities, it doesn't matter if you're awake or asleep, right? The thing is waking up and doing what? Accessing what you can, you see.
So you believe that we will always have these varying levels of deceiving ourselves into this false reality?
Allowing. You see, there's no such thing as human nature. You're bred into it. I'll give you an example. We are a type of being that comes into the world with no downloads, where all the animals tend to do that. I'll give you an example. This is an example I've been giving for 3 decades. Take a puppy dog, just been born from the litter, and immediately hand it over to some apes in the jungle to raise it. After a few years, you adapt that puppy dog, which is now a full-grown dog, and it'll chase a stick, it'll bark, it'll run after things, just like as if you raised it, right? Right? Very simple. You couldn't tell that the dog was raised by gorillas. Now, if you take a human after a few weeks and it's raised by gorillas, when it's, let's say, adolescent or mature, bring that human into your house, first thing he's going to do is run into your kitchen table and poop right on it and try to swing from the chandelier. So why do all the other animals have these instinctive downloads? For example, if you raise cats, they're little tiny cats. After they eat, they all groom themselves in synchronous fashion. They do things. No one ever showed them that. Their language is already downloaded. So we were kind of like, imagine getting a bare computer with just a hard drive, no operating system, no programs, and no files, right? Because that's the order, right? You need an operating system, then you need the programming, and then you need the files. If you have no operating system and you try to put files in, it's never going to accept them, right? And it will not accept a program. So you have to have an operating system. The operating system is the culture that you're raised in, right? The actual culture. Right. You have various cultures. Eastern, Western is the biggest division, right? And then you have the programs, which are basically your localities and familial life, and then the files are your personal experiences. And the computer is a wonderful analogy for how the human mind works. So I want to get into some minor details, shotgun steamrolling type stuff that I usually it's called Greek speak. It's been dubbed really basic stuff.
Yeah.
If there's something called home base, that everything emanates from the HQ headquarters, right? And if those operating HQ are completely have no knowledge or corrupted about what HQ is about, how well are they going to function when they go out from it? Not well at all.
Right.
So you have a mind. It's something they call the spirit, the soul, and the body. And this has always been confused, and it's so easy to determine. The body, let's just say, is the carne, the physical machine, which is biological in a biological vacuum. The soul is merely the metabolism, the involuntary breathing, the blood circulation, what keeps you alive. So the soul is basically someone that is alive, and it's interchangeable between all mammals. For example, you have something called resuscitation, CPR. If someone stops breathing and you resuscitate them, you're putting your metabolism, your breath, because you can't just breathe into them, you have to move their chest and all that, right? Into their body until their soul starts functioning again. You could also do it with a dog. When a dog passes out, there's CPR for animals. So it's all interchangeable. Then, and it's very tangible. Then you have what's called the spirit, which is the mind. Let's go back to the words here. Before I get into the mind, the mind. The English language borrows very heavily from the Greek prefixes, very, very heavily. So if you know English, and I ask you, do you know any Greek? And you'll say no. I say you probably know 100 Greek words. You just don't know that their origin is Greek, right? So the prefix for example, soul, in the Greek, it's pneuma. It has to do with breathing. The PNU, like pneumonia, right? Pneumatic, the movement of air. Now, the mind is the psyche, the psyche, which is where you get psychology, psychotic. It has to do with the mind. We just explained the soul being purely breath and metabolism. Now, the mind is completely intangible. Like, for example, if I show you a CD player, a CD of the Beatles' White Album, and you give that to a materials analyst, he'll come back with a few sheets of paper saying, well, the CD is this wide, it's made of this material, looks like this. Did you see the album? Did you see the music? No, I didn't see the music. You have to put it in a CD player. The actual music, the grooves in the vinyl is intangible to a material analyst. He can't see. He'll just see all these grooves.
Yeah. You
need the device to play it. And now what's interesting about CDs and records, they're all different. Even if you buy two of the identical albums, they'll sound slightly different. That's how the spirit is. It's what makes you, you. It's your mind. And most of the time, people mistake it for being the brain. The brain is merely the antenna. The scientists have figured out. When I say scientists, I spell it with a PSY, by the way. To say that everything is in the mind is like you're at a picnic or on the beach and someone has a radio playing jazz music. You think if you get a screwdriver and some tools and disassemble the radio, there'll be a little miniature jazz band playing in there? Not at all. It's picking up on an external source. So that's why part of the maxims of Greek speak is it's all external input from the program, the operating system, the man raised by the apes or the dog raised by the apes. You couldn't tell right? All the way to where we are in this conversation. So it's all external input.
So does that mean there is a fundamental problem with what is being inputted, or is it because of what our environment and what we're surrounding ourselves with that is muddling the program a bit?
No, I think everything in the universe is in balance. When an atomic device goes off, you see a mushroom cloud, not because that's what the atomic device does, it's because that's how it makes balance with the environment. So, for example, if we say 99% of the population, I say, are NPCs, and 1% are not, right, which is 1 out of 10, that is still a balanced, harmonious universe. So you only need one, let's say, decent, aware, cogent human to balance out 9 that aren't. I don't give it that call. You can give it that call. I'll tell you why. You can actually do a very quick snap judgment call that we have a problem, because let's just rephrase that. It's not really a problem. It's just mightily inconvenient. Right? A lot of the things that you see in the world that people are complaining about, I see as inconveniences. I see them as obstructions. I see them as challenges. I see them as resistance, right? But there's balance. Just like when you have an electrical circuit, you can't just run full power through the circuit board of a TV. It'll blow up. The circuit board inside has resistors and rectifiers and things to manage that circuit, and it develops heat. Right, which eventually the heat will ruin the device, right? So all this resistance that we see in society, the things we call problems, bad leadership, the elite, Illuminati, whatever, will eventually lead to its destruction, just like a laptop or a TV that requires all that circuit board to dump down and damp down that main power so it works, but what it's producing as a byproduct will eventually be to its demise.
Right.
So this is, and I hate to say it, but like, everybody just cover their ears for a second. Why isn't anybody saying these things? Why isn't anyone saying this? Okay, uncover your ears.
Yes, right on, man. Yeah, exactly. It's very interesting. And I think it really connects with this concept I've heard you discuss before, cosmic censorship, which I want to get into and I want to get your full understanding of. And it implies that what is occurring with what we perceive as censorship goes beyond anything in our material reality.
Sure. You have a groups that lead. This is what I say about leadership. Cover your ears again, people. If you walk into a situation where there are people, two or more, and you don't take control, that means that situation is going to be out of control. They say, oh, he's so passive aggressive. What do you mean take control? Just start observing what's going on around you and look at the inefficiencies in conversation, in methodologies, even in a factory floor. Anything that you see that people engage in is so damn inefficient, right? So it's very wasting time, right? So when someone has a better method, go in and just display that, because most people, they should learn by example without instruction. Some people need instruction, you see. So again, the cosmic censorship is how the external input that comes into our minds is throttled, managed, right? Regulated, right? Like, for example, in certain cases, I've heard it's, even though it's, according to them, illegal to throttle down internet, if you're not paying a certain amount tier, they'll slow down your speed and all that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see what I mean? It's very similar to that. Now, I can't for sure tell you what's on the other side, but I can for sure tell you what the heck is going on here and what you can do about it immediately, starting with yourself and then just 5 feet around you. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was in a design school, and the professor comes in the first day. He says, everyone in this class is going to get a B. And we're looking at each other like, well, I'm better than him. Why should I get a B? He's not that, why? What's going on? Why is he saying we're all going to get a B in this class? He says, because when you go out into the world as a designer, no one's going to look at your stuff. No one looks more than 5 feet beyond themselves. I said, oh my gosh, this guy is so honest. An honest professor, right? And I was like, what do you mean no one looks at your stuff? And then I was like, wait a second, no one's noticing what's more than 5 feet around them. Here's a perfect example. The stupid rectangle, right? The devices. People are sitting on a bench waiting somewhere, and they're texting each other 5 feet away. Right?
Yeah.
That's an extreme example. I've actually seen it only several times. I try to keep to myself, but I have witnessed it, right?
Yeah. I have too.
So this holds true. So what I want to get into more of that is the human body. This is a container that you're operating, right? It's a biological machine. And how, look, if you want to look at the materialist perspective that the scientists show with anatomy and all that, it does look like machinery. It looks like hydraulics and basically fluids and gases and membranes, soft membrane structures, right? Okay, very quickly. Just wanted to, this is going to have to directly pertain to what people already know and think about it. Okay, I want you to go on the stupid rectangle. I think by now people know what I mean by the stupid rectangle, right? It's rectangular shape and it's dumb stuff on it, right? You push buttons on it. Okay, I want you to do this to learn about the human body. Just put in human intestines cross section. Human intestines cross section. Look at the image. It'll be a drawn image. It's actually pretty accurate. Do the human skin or skin cross section, lung tissue cross section. Okay, now you're going to see several layers of tissue with very tightly packed, and they're actually hydrophobic. Nothing ever passes through there. As a matter of fact, just to prove the point, put in a Firestone or Goodyear steel belted radial tire cross section and compare the intestines, the skin, and the lungs, what have you, with a steel belted radial tire, and they look the same. What's the purpose of a car tire? To be contained, to be completely sealed. So when you, okay, where is he going with this? Where's he going with this? You're constantly being told you're absorbing nutrition through the intestines. You're absorbing air. There's air going through are you joking? If anything passes through those intestines, as you're told, you will die of septicemia. If you have, doesn't matter how small the holes are. There are no holes in the lungs. There are no holes in the skin through the internal body. Yes, you have pores. Those are different, like cul-de-sacs on a road. You have no pores in the intestine. Nothing passes through. So when you eat food or breathe air, how does it get to the internal body? It's by the form of called induction. Induction is something where you have the transfer of energy with no contact. Some of the new homes, they have these glass stovetops, and you have a pot of boiling water on it. It's an induction cooker, and the water's in a rolling boil. You just move the pot aside, put your hand right on the burner, and it's room temperature. Wait a second, you put the pot right over, it starts boiling. I have one of these electric toothbrushes that are like that. You put it in the charger, there's no metal contact. This is why they did this in Star Trek, called the replicator, right? That replicated food from energy or beamed you up. Okay, they're showing you that everything works via induction. So how does the body work? When you eat food, when you take this food and it's in the stomach and the intestines, chemicals are released in the intestines to break down the food so it's more conductive, and energy is emitted. It's transferred through the intestinal wall. That energy on the outside in the blood vessels in the intestine now pick up that energy, and that energy then collapses into a gas, which then quickly collapses into a liquid, which then is transferred to the body and becomes a solid, because you're not going to move solids through the body. So the little cells are like these little Wi-Fi packets that are moving to different parts. I mean, I go into more detail on this, but you can witness this, right? And also, here's another thing. They tell you this thing, you have blood pressure. They put a cuff on your arm and inflate it to measure the time, the space between the heartbeats, right? And they're telling you of pressure. Oh my goodness. Anyone who's worked on a garden hose with a small hole in it knows that if you cut your skin, the blood doesn't start squirting out immediately. The blood is under a slight vacuum. All the blood is moving and all the fluids are moving under vacuum condition. That's why when you cut yourself, you have to wait the vacuum has to be broken, and then the blood starts trickling out. Even with an artery, if you were to cut the femoral artery, you have to count to like 3 seconds, then it starts shooting out because it's in a vacuum condition. Everything is being pulled in. All living things are sucked inward. That's one of the definitions, mechanical definitions of being alive. A biological vacuum ensues. When you die, that biological vacuum turns off. And what happens to a corpse? It starts to what? Expand, right? Give you an example. When you put your feet and hands in water for a while, the skin gets soft. Does it expand like a frog, or does it start to crinkle and wrinkle and shrink?
Yeah, it's wrinkles.
When you get soggy, right? Because if you took a piece of meat with a bone in it and stuck it in a Ziploc bag and put pressure in it, the bag would blow up like a balloon. But if you put the meat and the bone in a Ziploc bag, let's say, and pulled a vacuum on it, what would the bag do? It'll wrinkle just like your hands and toes. So you're under a biological vacuum. So when you die, that biological vacuum ends, and right, the corpse starts to expand, right? Because all the chemical decomposition. So there is no talk about biological vacuum. This leads to the topic of medical. It's all fiction.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. There seems like we're just finding out that there's a huge fundamental problem with what we've been shown about our medical and pharmaceutical industry.
It's not you call it yours. It's not mine. Yeah. It's not mine for sure. It's mine medical either. Fiction. Look, it's science fiction. Yeah. It's historical fiction. It's religious fiction. Here, give you an example. That's why, this is what I say. They have a donor card, and I have a donor card, and it says on it, when I die, I want my body donated to science fiction. Right? Anyway, so you could look all these things up on how the body really works, and you won't find it. You're going to find all presumption. That's why years ago, Grey's Anatomy was all presumptive. The kidneys appear to be this. The intestines appear to be doing this. It must be in presumption. In legal, everything is a fiction, by the way. You could look up legal fiction. Just go on the computer, put in legal fiction. It's the premise of the legal system. It's all based on fiction. Like, I'm accusing you for stealing rocks for the moon. How do you plead? Well, if you plead, you're admitting the charges are true. It doesn't mean that you did it. It just means the charges are true. Now someone has to pay for it. We can get into that. Law and legal is completely different things. But back to the human body, once you see what's going on, by the way, this is also exhibited in plants. People say, oh, I have to go water the plants. Bullshit. You're not watering plants, you're watering the soil. How do you mean? How do you mean? Take out a plant, soften the soil, pull it out. A green onion is very easy. You'll see the roots, rinse them off really, really well, dry the plant off with the roots intact. Now, when you get a spray bottle and spray the roots, do the roots like suck in all the water, or does the water bead up on the roots just like water would bead up on a freshly waxed car hood? The water beads up on the roots. Every time. They're hydrophobic. They don't want to be in water. In other words, they need the energy from the water. Here's the other thing about water. Why does a bucket of water weigh more than a bucket of air? It shouldn't, according to the science. Oh, wait a second. That sounds freaking ridiculous, man. H2O. So hydrogen is 1, oxygen is 16. So H2O should weigh 18 molecular weight. The molecular weight of air is about 28, 29. Now, even academics say, oh, Greek, one is a gas, one is a liquid. Well, first of all, water does not have a gas phase. It only goes from solid to liquid, then vapor. It does not have a gas phase. Now, here's the thing. This is how you do the comparison. Go to a welding shop. They have liquid air in tanks, right? And I want you to weigh that. And then take the same weight tank and fill it up with water. Well, why is there a weight? The air should be almost twice as heavy, but it's not. It's lighter. So it doesn't make any sense what they're telling us even about water. What they're telling us about water is H2O, for example. Some guy in the 1700s put two electrodes in water and saw hydrogen coming off of one and oxygen coming off the other, and he got a peer review in 3 days, and they called it H2O, and that's it. But you know what they don't tell you is that you could never put electrodes in water and fully reduce the water, the entire volume of water, down to hydrogen and oxygen. You can only do it about halfway, then that reaction stops, and then you end up with a type of water that could sell on the black market for $50,000 a gallon. It's called tritium and deuterium and things like that, right? And they never talk about that. So they say you're made up of 75% water. You're more like 98% water, because if you drain all the fluids out of the body is still wet, right? The cells are still wet. So when you drain all the, like bones, by the way, fresh bones are pretty heavy. Dry bones are very light. Even the bones are made of water. So the understanding of water, what it is and all that is a huge subject. I've given several dissertations on it. And by the way, when I say that people are ignorant and they're corrupt, I'm talking about your professionals, not the common people, right? What I mean by that very quickly is, let's say the common people, they do tasks, let's just call them good slaves. Bus drivers, carpenters, plumbers, admin people or whatever, they are fully doing their job. They have some time off to themselves, and they sleep and they rinse, wash, repeat, right?
Yeah.
They have maybe what's called a weekend, right? So let's say you're a bus driver and you want to learn about the human body. You have to go to a trusted professional, right? He's going to tell you have blood pressure and you absorb. Oh my gosh, he doesn't have a chance, right? Excuse me. You're a bus driver. You want to learn about energy or whatever. You don't have a chance. Einstein, what are you talking about? By the way, Einstein in German means stupid, because Ein means one, and Stein means stone. So when you have one stone, that means you're dumb. And it's a joke in front of everyone. And it's called pranking. Give you an example. We have a mothership and we travel through the universe, let's say. This is an analogy I want to give. So we go to this planet. And we find that the biggest industry on this planet is bulletproof or Kevlar underwear. Kevlar is a material used to make bulletproof vests, right? Now, why is the industry on this planet, massive corporations that control the planet, because they make Kevlar underwear? Well, Greek, you see, they have a custom here that they put a thumbtack on the seat before they sit down. So they have to have this Kevlar underwear. And I'm like, why don't you just stop putting the thumbtack on the seat, and you don't need the Kevlar underwear? You know what the people who make the Kevlar underwear are going to do to you, right? It's just that's how simple it is to change everything, right? I'm not saying it's going to change, but you can change it within your range. So the human body, that's a very simple one. By the way, back to the blood pressure. All these diseases they put out, I don't know, are you subject to the liberal cartel that is taking videos down for saying certain things?
Well, I have been, because my YouTube channel was nuked with 40,000 subscribers. So yeah, I'm there.
No, but how about right now?
No, you can say whatever you want. We're not on YouTube anymore.
Well, I'm going to say what needs to be said.
Yeah,
what I really want to say, I'm going to keep for private. But okay, this is what. Okay, they have the vax issue. Okay, all right. There is no. They say it's for the immune system. Okay, well, excuse me. The immune system. What's the organ for the immune system? There is no such thing as an immune system. It's a fiction. It's what do you mean? Well, how does your body get rid of bad things? Oh, well, that's called the eliminative system, dummy. There is no immune system. You have the nutritive system, you have the eliminative system, circulatory, nervous. There's no immune system. Okay, so they have these things called vaccines, right? And I was out once, and nurses set up a table a few years ago, and this guy I was with is an anti-vaxxer, and he started bawling out the nurses, about vaccines, toxic, and they're laughing at him. Oh, you're one of those whack jobs, nut loose cases that are anti-vaccine that don't mind people getting killed. And they were making fun of him. So I go up to the nurse and I say, okay, so you're administering these injections. How are you taking into account the body weight, blood type, sex, and race of the individual? Because the original studies in vaccines, they had to take account your blood type, your body weight, male or female, and the race also. Race? What's race? Yes, there is medical racism. For example, a lot of these psychotropic drugs and things like Prozac or whatever, they don't administer in places like Korea and parts of Asia, because if you're Korean or certain parts of Asia, you take that, you will die. Give you an example. If you're an anesthesiologist, you have two people coming to you to go under anesthesia for, let's say, an appendectomy. One is a 90-pound white girl with red hair and freckles. The other one is a 300-pound black man. Do you know the amount of anesthesia to put under the 90-pound white girl with red hair and freckles will kill the 300-pound black man? Right?
Interesting.
It's medical. It's called medical racism, right? And it's a real thing. And it's right. And just ask an anesthesiologist. Just of course. So anyway, look, if you want to give vaccines, you're going to have to take into account my body weight, my blood type, race. And are they doing that, or are they doing one side, one shirt? Right? It's a scam. It's a total scam. Here's another thing: blood pressure. They put a cuff. All right, they tell you got pressure. People walking around thinking they're like pressurized filter bags, right? Because they absorb things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this analogy without getting into it. You go to the medical technician. You shouldn't call them doctors. They don't deserve that. And he says, I'm going to do a diagnosis on you. He sits you down. He ties a string around your finger. He makes it really tight. And he uses a clock. It has to be a medical clock because a regular clock's not good enough, of course. And after a couple of minutes, your finger turns purple or blue or whatever, and he has a chart, and he holds up the different, different colors of purple and blue, stupiditis, whatever you might have. He's like, wait a second, that condition does not occur in nature. That's not a natural condition. What are you doing making this stuff up? That's exactly what the blood pressure thing is. Give you an example. Years ago, it's diabetes is another one. AIDS is another one. For example, AIDS is, let's go back to that. It's a form of venereal disease, and they said we really got to go after this. So the medical, the bankers, elite, whatever. So what they did was they started scaring people with it, and they put out a test. So if you get the test, which is a PCR test, right? We know how accurate that is, right? Yeah. Similar to it, and they randomly say if you're positive. Okay, so remember they have the media scaring everyone. If you test positive, they start sending you these letters. Oh, not that you have AIDS, you never have any of the diseases. Read very carefully. You're diagnosed with it, right? Like stealing rocks from the moon, you're being charged with stealing rocks from the moon in court, right? Okay, so they send you propaganda. This is very serious. You should consider treatment. You know what the treatment is? Okay, I don't know if your audience know what epithelial apoptosis is. That's a medical term for when cells are replaced in the body. When the cells are replaced, everyone knows, they said even every 7 years, all the cells are replaced. Okay, so when a cell is replaced in the body, it gives off a small hormone that tells the body it's been replaced. What the AIDS treatment is that hormone. So when you take their treatment, the cells detach and release from the body, and they go through the elimination system. But that medicine that they give you tells the body the cell has been replaced when it has not. So you are literally withering away, and the body doesn't know why, because it has all the chemical signals that you are rebuilding. And this is what the AIDS. So no one, I assure you that no one has died from AIDS who has not received treatment for it. Right. Only the people, okay, diabetes, okay, pancreas, okay. In Eastern medicine for thousands of years, the pancreas were never considered an independent organ. They're part of the liver function. It's all liver function. Someone who has a bad liver function, I'm not talking about hepatitis or something like that. Anyone with a bad liver function will experience all of the things, the triggering of insulin, bad eyesight, circulation, all this lack of energy, and they're calling it diabetes, and if you take the treatment for diabetes, you're going to get worse and worse, just right, and worse and worse. Take the treatment for blood pressure, it will destroy your liver. Then you see, okay. This, let me ask you, why are they doing this? Why don't we do something about it? Let me ask you this: is anyone putting a gun to your head to go to these morons called medical or whatever? No, 100%. It's all voluntary. All voluntary. Now. Yes, but it's not fair that they're propagandizing and scaring people with their propaganda. Okay, are you their attorney now? Are you going to represent them? No. You see, what I'm talking about is a cross-section of what's going on, right? So once you understand what's going on, the next step with food, with this is food intake. It's a chemical, physical substance. So let me give you an example. Do you know that if you, in the wintertime, when it's cold, they say you need vitamin C, and you start taking this tropical fruit? Wait a second. First of all, no one knows what's in an orange because they say there's vitamin C in it. No, how do you know? Because we've taken it to a lab, and you know how they find out there's vitamin C in an orange? They squeeze it and they burn it. Wait a second. I have a book here, lots of information. If I burn it, am I going to get any more information from it? No, all the information is lost. So anyway, they have these poor children drinking tropical fruits in the wintertime. Do you know if you eat tropical foods when it's cold outside, it's going to adjust your body to a tropical environment? And what
Really?
happens? You develop mucus,
Huh.
right? What does mucus do? Okay, let's stop. Why do you develop mucus? How simple. Go look at a cross section of a woman that's pregnant. What keeps the baby inside the cervix from falling out with all that fluid? What's it called? It's called a mucus plug, right? So
Mm.
when the body starts to lose biological vacuum, it starts to plug it up. Just like if you have a hole in the tire, you got a patch kit, I want to plug the hole, right? So when you start developing mucus because you're in a wrong seasonality, for example, you start developing mucus in the nose. And why? Because it's an opening. Developing mucus on the throat. Why? Because it's an opening. Mucus in the ears. You have an ear canal with a vent. It's
Mm.
right. It's a lot of children ear infection. Uh, Anyone who's had a child, very common ear infection. Stop using tropical foods in the winter. Now, here's the antithesis is true. I live in the tropics and I like eating salmon, which is from the Arctic. I'm going to eat salmon. Do you know that I cannot cool myself down? I'll have to keep myself in a refrigerator and I still won't be cold enough,
Huh.
right? So, what's going on right now? You're being screwed by commerce, right? They're offering you all these
Yeah.
foods from all over the world. Give you an example. Third grade teacher. Oh, I caught a cold. I caught a cold from the kids. Kids are goats, by the way. Um, I caught a cold from the kids, right? I'm like, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, because you're just a white lady that eats the same thing that those other children do. The lady that teaches math from Bangladesh and the professor from China that teaches physics, he doesn't catch a cold the same class. Why? Because they don't eat. They eat seasonally. They eat their cultural
Mm.
food. You see?
Right.
Interesting, isn't it? That's
It
why I don't get into the
it
germ theory
is.
and all that stuff. Yeah, it's all induction and internal chemistry.
That is fascinating. What are the implications of the full human potential if we were to optimize what we're eating and the way we treated our body? I mean, I can
Good.
imagine that a much longer lifespan would be part of
Hope,
that.
hopefully not. I'll say this. I'll just finish up with the body with cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
You're never going to get when people say to me, a lot of people come with the health stuff and they say that, oh, my mom got cancer. I said, oh, good. And they think when I say good, I'm bad wishing because she got cancer because of the stigma. Cancer just means the body's working. A
Hmm.
cancer is a roadblock. It's kind of like when you have an accident on a roadway, immediately like a response team, usually from the municipal authorities or highway patrol, comes and shows up and puts down pylons to redirect traffic. If that's not done, the accident, someone may not see it and pile into it again and again, and then, right? So
Yeah.
what cancer is in the body, when there's an energetic block based on bad diet, chemistry, bad thoughts, an energy isn't flowing right, the body will physically manipulate cells of an organ, depending which one is be affected, to create a blockage, right? To tell you, hey, dummy, you've been mistreating me for so long. You need to you need to stop. This is how I'm communicating with you. This is my language. So
Ah.
if you didn't have cancer, you would just drop dead. You would say, I've got a really bad headache and fall over. No more chances. At least with cancer, you can heal that and recover that, right? So I
Right.
just want to end that with that. There's no, by the way, cover your ears. Why isn't anyone saying this?
I am
You
wondering
know,
the same thing, brother.
yes. So
Yeah.
and that's why I just hate speaking publicly, because it's like, oh my gosh, who's going to this is so simple. You see, we're mid-range thinkers. We don't comprehend the simple and we don't comprehend the complex. It's got to be somewhere in the mid-range. So if you want to propagandize a society, you have to keep it mid-range, but right now it seems like dumber the better, right?
Mm.
But anyway, okay, so eating why do you want to make your life longer here? I think that it's actually a blessing that you live less than 70 or 100, because things are going to be the way they are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's look, I had enough 30 years ago. I was done 30 years ago. This is all like the credits for me. When the movie for me ended 30 years ago. This is the
Yeah.
credits. And also timing. You know what I mean about that? When you want to shoot a 2-hour film, do you buy exactly 2 hours worth of film back in the days? No, you need 2 hours and 10 minutes because you got to run credits in the end. What's interesting about the credits is you could show things that wouldn't make sense if you showed them in the movie, right?
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and, and what's interesting about the credits is, like, during the movie, if someone stands up and makes a disturbance, everyone says shut up and sit down. But during the credits, you can make disturbances and all that, and no one tells you to shut up and sit down. But the film is still rolling. The credits started rolling for human society in 1998. I
Mm.
get this from old biblical chronology. So that's why if you did anything, talked about anything like this, or the Pope molesting children before 1998. But as a matter of fact, the first article at the Vatican was molesting children started in 1998 because it doesn't matter anymore. You're in the credits section, right? No one's going to tell you to shut up and sit down. Yeah, there's censorship and all that, but you get whacked, like they say in New York mob style, for saying certain things before 1998. Where right now it's just totally open, right? And you don't have a lot of time left, a little bit over a decade. But here's the thing. In the credits section the society is right now, as the more they're telling you things are getting better, the more they're going to get, the worse it actually is. Because when anything comes to an end, it actually gets really elaborate. Like, for example, when railroad travel was coming to an end and to be replaced by automobiles and other means, you notice the railroad cars were getting extremely extravagant, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to another method. In the ghetto, they had spinning rims, right? And souping up cars. You had a $500 car and you put $4,000 wheels on it. You notice right before that fad went out, the wheels got super expensive and super gaudy and super elaborate. Every style, every aspect of human society, right before it ends, it gets really extravagant. Okay, so you're going to be entering into an extravagant period starting around the next few years that it's just going to get everyone spending. Don't fall for it. But anyway, let's get back to the Greek speak. Why do you want to live longer? It's the quality of life that you want to have, right?
Right.
You want to eat McDonald's burgers every day, or do you want to have one good burger once a week? Big difference.
Right.
The experience is totally right. Okay, so this is not pessimism. This is what I'm doing is taking a cross section of what you're asking me. This is what's going on right now. Like, stop everything. This is what's going on right now. How it's going to go and how it's been, can also be determined.
Right on. I love that. I want to go back to something you said, though. You said that we're in the credits stage right now. What exactly do you mean by that? That we are up against a reset in the future of some sort?
Yes, what they call the end times. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to do a plug, even though I don't endorse him. Jason Brashears of Archaics.
I've had him on a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, his chronology is very, very good. I don't agree with him on most of the other stuff, but because I don't agree with something doesn't mean it's not true. I just have not found it to be true. Mm-hmm. But I don't endorse him. But I would suggest the chronology aspect. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that he came on the scene. So that with disclosing what he's doing, I just want to give that plug for that aspect. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think if him and I got together, it would be very dangerous.
That'd be an interesting conversation for sure. Yeah. So what are we looking at? When we say a reset and you say the end times, do you have any idea of what would be expected from that?
Sure. The next thing that you're going to expect on the world scene is a Middle East union. The country of Iraq being split in half, and in the north part being called Assyria. You're going to see the expansion of Israel and Israel losing a war. It's all going to go back to the Middle East. You're going to have what's, how you have the European Union, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a Middle East Union, but it's not going to be like the European Union. It's going to be a very loose confederacy, but everything is going to be focused there. Like the center of your economics, center of culture, center of science, all this stuff is going to be going. It's going to be shifting towards an ultra-conservative sort of like Old Testament kind of law form coming around. That's why a lot of people talk about, Greek, aren't you? You're an Old Testament kind of guy. Are you upset that they're having gay marriage? No, not. Because what they're doing is, it's unlawful to have same-sex relations in the Old Testament, for example, right? It's punishable by death. Mm-hmm. What they're doing is when they're coming out, they're putting themselves on official record. So when everything flips and the authorities go for this ultra conservative, all these people are already recorded in the record. They don't have to do good knock on everyone's door.
Yeah.
The same with you see what I mean? So don't fall for it. I mean, it's all going to flip. Mm-hmm. They're telling everyone you have no right. It's a joke, they tell you have rights and freedom in America. But if you ever sat down with an attorney general or a cop in private or a politician, it's like, no, you don't have any rights at all. You got to be just like everybody else. But in public, they tell you have rights and freedoms and immunities and all these things, right? Total baloney. So it's totally schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean, I'm not saying this is good or bad. Good or bad depends on who you are. For example, let's just use basic slave talk. You go and rob a bank, right? You're the bad guys. Mm-hmm. But when you get caught by the cops, to you, the cops are the bad guys.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to talk about good or bad? No, I can only say, these guys went in and put a gun and gave them some fake paper, and they ran out. That's all I could say, right? I'm not going to say good or bad. So, by the way, the money, we got into the body a little bit. Money is a big motivator, right?
Oh yeah.
I want to just give a certain point how I'm going to prove to you how no one is paying any attention at all. And I mean no one, I mean like with small exception. So I'll give this as an example. We use slave talk here. Okay, I have a bank account and it's minus $1,000 minus right now. Can I write you a check for $100? No. Right? Now, if you gave me $1,000 and I put it in the bank account, can I still write a check for $100? No, because now it's at zero, right? Okay, so people have been getting these government grants and funds and stimulus check from the government. Last time I checked, there were 30 trillion in the hole.
Right. Yeah.
They can't write you a check. Now, if you gave the government 30 trillion, could they still write you a check for $100? No. What's going on? The money is drawn from your signature. So, for example, this is what happens. Let's say you send me a check for $100 in the mail, and I take it to the bank, and I give it to the bank teller to have it cashed. And I give it to her. She says, I can't use that. Oh, why? You have to sign the back. Oh, there's a signature on the front. There's a signature on the back. The moment you do that, she goes into the terminal, and there's a transaction number. She types in $100, and that $100 appears on the computer because there's two signatures on the paper. I get the $100 cash, right? So, but what they do is they see on the check, it has your bank information on it, doesn't it? They immediately call your bank and say, hey, we did that thing. So I take the money out of Chris's account. So he thinks that it went to the Greek, but it never leaves your name. It goes still in the bank under your name in the legal department. It sits there, right? That's why they give you a bank statement at the end of the month. So you look at your bank balance, it's minus 100. Oh, the Greek cashed the check. Oh, wow. And you think that $100 is gone. No, what actually happens, they move it to a part of the bank that you don't access. It's still under your name. And they do this with every transaction, by the way. They file a piece of paper from the IRS called a 1099-A, which means those funds are abandoned because Chris is never going to get them. He doesn't know that it's still here under his name, right? 1099-A. And they wait a little while. Then they file a 1099-C, which is to claim that. And then they claim that. Now, how about this? How about when you get a bank statement at the end of the month and you run your bank balance down to zero, let's say you had $5,000 in there, put a 1099-C in for $5,000 and send it back to the bank with the statement. Say, I want my $5,000 that you have on the back room there. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You get a letter and it says, here's the balance of your account. Let's say it's zero, not going to say anything. We're going to close your account and we don't have to tell you why, because under consumer laws, we could refuse service without giving you a reason.
Huh.
Yeah. Now, let me tell you, Henry Ford said if people found out how the money system worked, there'd be blood in the streets in a day, right?
Right.
Now, here's the thing. How many people are being thrown out or starving because they've run their bank account down to zero? Yeah. What do you think will happen if they found out that everything that they spent out of the bank account is still sitting there in their name and being claimed by the bank?
Yeah, blood in the streets.
So, yeah, all you have to do is when you're born, someone gives you $1,000, you go and spend it, file a claim form, you get the $1,000 back, go and spend it, file it back, right? Well, that's all you just need $1,000. You just keep using it over and over because you're under a credit-based society. This is how money works, by the way. Money is an exchange. This is what money is. And I guess no one is saying this online. It's really disturbing. I'm actually embarrassed to be on this planet at this point, kind of like with the Kevlar underwear, right? Planet?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. This is how embarrassing this is. When you live in a perfect society or near perfect, everything you have, you make yourself. It could be high technology. When I say that, it sounds like you're in the Stone Age. No, not necessarily, right? You can have a replicator, a 3D printer, make anything, and you make it all within your community, right? When you want to travel outside of your community, you have to bring something of value. And the most portable way to take the land and community and make it portable is with gold, right? So money, whether it's paper, notes, or precious metal, or diamonds, right, or anything, it represents portable land, the portability of your community. That's why, like, for example, the American dollar is so strong across the world, Well, it's because it's the American community, right? Okay, give you an example. So for the nobility, the wealth is held in gold. For the common man, it's held with silver, used with silver. For the poor, it's barter. And for the slave, it's credit. And what kind of an economic system do you have? a credit-based economy, right? So this is basically how it works. This is very, very frustrating for many people to hear how the money system works, because you know, how are you going to deal with it? Well, you're going to have to get smart, because yeah, I'll just stop right there.
Well, speaking of being frustrated about what we have access to versus what could possibly be in our reality, I want to spend the last few minutes that we have on the technological aspects that are hidden from us, that we interact with every day, that has been put forward as something that will keep us in line, something that will keep us unaware and keep us occupied. But beyond that, we never see any true growth in technology that really benefits mankind. But there is implications that surrounding us at all times is this type of etheric energy that can be
Yes.
utilized for anything in our reality, and it holds our reality together in a sense, right?
Sure, sure. We can't define the ether, just like you can't pick yourself up standing in a bucket. There is an interesting aspect to that. Just like you cannot, we live in a super reality, meaning like you cannot define the simulation that we're in. We could just define the super reality. See, it's not reality versus a simulation. The simulation is real, and it creates a super heightened reality that we experience as our culture and society. Technically, be happy with what you've got. And this is the analogy. Go look at the World's Fairs from the early 1900s, and they said you were going to have flying cars by the 1980s, right?
Mhm.
A hotel on the moon and all this. Never going to get that. Never, ever, ever going to get that. You know, it's like, wait a second, those guys outside with jetpacks. No, those are not jetpacks. Those are leaf blowers. Yeah, sorry, right? Yeah, you're not going to get, this is it. Like, for example, I have a hammer, okay, and it's a 50-year-old East Wing hammer, framing hammer. I go to the hardware store. They have the same exact one hanging up for sale, brand new. I go get a car, and they tell me this is the new model. I said, it's a new model, different from last year? How different? Oh, much different. That's all because you guys haven't figured out how to make them yet? What's going on? Why do you have a new model car every year? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Mm.
It means you haven't figured out how you make them yet. So figure it out. Most people, you see, this is how I want the new, the latest, hottest. See, it's some kind of a trip, a fashion trend trip that people are on. Very simple. We started off with duality. There is no duality. It's all pressure gradient, right? Mm-hmm. So they say gravity pulls you down. No, it doesn't. The ether pressure out there is much greater than the ether pressure down here. So it's pushing everything down. It's moving towards, right? You see? Same with electricity. If you have, let's say, a battery and two light bulbs that are the same, with two batteries that are the same, and you put a resistor in one of between the light bulb and the battery on one and not on the other, the one that doesn't have the resistor is going to be brighter. Why? Because the resistor is creating a pressure. Same when you turn on the faucet in your kitchen or bathroom or whatever. You know, that valve is actually a resistor, and when the water is off, that's infinite resistance. You see? So once you start changing your language, here's an example: magnetism. This is a society that was raised and developed through fire, right? Everything burns something or consumes something, right? Yeah. Can you imagine if you developed a society based on magnetism? I'll tell you what, you'd still be horse and buggy, but you'd walk into the room and there would be a small device like an artificial sun. No, it's not giving off light in the corner, and it would keep the room at the constant temperature, whether it's hot or cold out. Right, all year. Right. Here's a secret with technology. Make sure that no one gets this. Is a secret between you and me. Okay. You notice when you heat or cool a room, the heat goes to the ceiling and the cold goes to the floor. Whether you're heating or cooling, it doesn't matter. Well, wait a second. That's a very bad health condition, because then you have a hot head and cold feet, right?
Yeah.
So hold on a second. This is a secret. When you go out into nature on the hottest day, down in the valley, it's hot. But if you go up to the mountains, it gets colder and colder. And if you go into what they call an airplane and start flying towards the sun, which is allegedly a heat source, and open the window, it's really cold, right? And it's like, wait a second, because all biological natural systems, you have a rarefied rising cold and a densifying descending heat. Now, this is what I used to do. They said it was harassment. I would call the university physics department and engineers every day. Said, how many calls did you get yesterday from people demanding heating and cooling systems that make a rising cold and descending heat? Like, nobody ever called about that. I said, oh my gosh, this is scary. You're not getting any calls for the obvious, demand for the obvious? What's going on here? You see, because medical technician, I don't have time to see you. What's wrong? Well, my head is hot and my feet are cold. Well, heat's supposed to go up and cold's supposed to go down. What is he going to say? You're doing fine? No, you're not doing well. You want a cool head and warm feet. Right. So you want to talk about technology? Let's start there first. Everything has already been provided naturally because nature, it's all a machine. You heard about reinventing the wheel. It's already there. Nature is the wheel. Nature is the wheel. Just copy nature. Victor Schauberger said that. Just copy nature. You'll be fine. There's a field in engineering called biomimicry, where they make impellers and machines that copy things in nature, and they work so well, whether it's aerodynamic, hydrodynamic, structural, or whatever, right? The strongest structures are still wood. Pound for pound, wood is very close to steel, vertically, look at an egg. If you hold an egg just right and squeeze it in your hand as hard as you can, it will not break along the central axis, right?
Yes.
It's a natural system. In nature, all the large end comes out first. The baby, when a baby's born, is it the tippy toes that come out first or the head? Actually, if the toes come out first, it's a breech birth. The baby's going to die.
Yeah. When
a chicken egg comes out, I'm not saying you should go pick up a chicken that's having an egg. It's not polite to do that. But the big end comes out first, right? The tadpole, right, with fish, the big end comes. How are they designing things now? Everything, it's real pointy in the front. When it's real pointy in the front, death is coming your way. Let's look at things that are pointy in the front: bullets, arrows, knives. So let's make our cars. Let's make our cars and airplanes like bullets and arrows, and a bee stinger. Isn't that pointy in the end, right? It's like, oh my gosh, they're copying the most. You see. Yeah. Stop focusing. It's a death. That's why I have this thing with Ocelli.com. It's called Rated Y, the letter Y, and it's the theme of the I don't do shows. They're sonic events. Is the unculting of humanity, because all of humans are part of this death cult. I hate to say it. There's no way we can get into all the other dozens of subjects I get into, and everything I brought up, I know you can access just right in front of you. What they're doing with the scientists, I'm spelling that with a PSY, is they're telling you can't find out how the body works with science. You need very expensive equipment. If you can't make it in your kitchen or at Ace Hardware or whatever, or in your pocket, it doesn't exist. It's a fiction. It's a complete fiction. And this is basically, now here's the thing. This is the takeaway. Oh, the Greek's so negative. He sounds so angry. No, what I'm trying to say is that all the stuff is wrong. What does that mean? What does that really mean, Chris? It's a testament to the robustness of the human condition. We are so robust that 90% of what we encounter is purely resistive and based on a death cult, and we still prevail 70, 80, 90 years. And we recover. Even cancer. Cancer just means your body's working. It's creating a block to stop the energy moving there. Remember energy, because the food becomes energy in the body, right? Yes. Oh, I'll leave you off with one thing for food. They have this thing called caloric intake. Oh my gosh. Definition of a calorie is when you burn, raise 1 degree, 1 gram of water, right? Now, if you've ever seen a calorimeter, it's a glass tube. They fill it with oxygen. They put the piece of banana in there, and something like a sparkle goes, boom, it turns into carbon. Let me ask you this. Calories only matter for food if you're pooping charcoal briquettes. Do you know anyone who's pooping charcoal? If you eat a banana, if you know what a banana, let's say it's got 80 calories that you eat. When you poop it, can you burn that poop? Of course you can. So what the hell do calories have to do with food? Nothing. Come on, people, wake up. Just go look at the definitions of what's being put out there. I get into religion, God. There's no people. You believe in God? What kind of a stupid question is that? There's no such thing. What do you mean there's no such thing? Are you atheist? No, there's gods. It's plural. What are you talking about? What came first, the chicken or the egg? That's a stupid question. Of course, the chicken came. The egg is just a function of the chicken, right? It's to reproduce, right? You can, right? Oh my gosh! It's like, don't ask me why the chicken crossed the road. Who am I to question a chicken's intentions? I mean, you've got to have fun, but it is robust. This is kind of like Imagine a war movie, an old war movie, and you're in the trenches, and if you stick your head up, you're going to get shot and have it blown off. Is it possible to have humor and fun while you're still in the trenches in this war scene? Of course it is. Actually, the ones that actually make it are the ones that maintain humor.
Right. Now, you said something that might send us into a little bit of overtime. You said that there's no God, but there are gods. Let's elaborate on that and the possibility of non-human intelligences that we might interact with.
I'll make it really simple. Whether you read the Bible or whatever, these are advanced humans. Give you an example. Well, we were made in their image, right? So for example, you know, they have Rolex watches, and you go get a Bolex, you know, fake Rolex for $125, right? Well, in every way, it's a Rolex, except that the quality is lower, right?
Right.
Actually, some of the $100 Rolexes right now, you have to take it to an expert watchmaker to tell the difference. Well, obviously, it won't keep time, won't have the weight, right? So we're just a lower down quality of a type of human. Give me an example. Let's just, before answering this, I'm going to answer this indirectly, which answers it completely. There's something called a time machine, right? Is it possible that a time machine can ever be invented, whether it's 1 trillion years from now, 1 billion years from ago, or what? Yes, the answer is yes. It's possible it can be invented. So when you ask a crowd of people, what do you want? We want a time machine. And you ask them, when do you want it? Irrelevant. Irrelevant. It doesn't matter if a time machine is invented 1 trillion years from now. Can they affect us now? The answer is, you figure it out, right? Of course. Now, you want to talk about the gods? I don't. Because here's the thing. What it is, your law comes from your God. So, for example, I'm an Old Testament kind of guy. So when I eat food, if it's a four-legged animal, it has to have a cloven hoof and chew the cud. So no pig. Well, pig's got a cloven hoof but doesn't chew the cud. You know, people go to a restaurant, I don't want any pork. Are you Jewish? No, I'm not Jewish. If you could get the pigs to be born chewing the cud, I'll eat it. What are you talking about? It's not religion, dude. You know, like a rabbit chews the cud, he has a paw. If it comes out of the water, it should have fins and scales. So clams and lobsters, they're out, right? You see what I mean? Catfish and shark, they have fins, but they don't have scales, right?
Right.
They have skin. So I'm an Old Testament kind of guy. In other words, I keep time that way. It's not religion. Like, for example, you know, the day starts at high noon, not midnight. Give you an example. I don't know if you remember early banking conventions, people that did banking in the 70s. If you deposited a check after 12 o'clock, it was counted as the next day.
Yeah.
In the Western movies, they hung you at the end of the day, which was, when did they hang them high? At high? What? Yeah. Yeah, it's at noon. So that's why the morning and the evening were the first day. So when does morning end? At noon. When does evening start? At noon. A lot of people don't. They think it's sundown. You can't take a measurement at sundown. It's too ambiguous. Here's another thing. You know, for thousands of years, the people settled their debts before a full moon came around, right? That's why today, don't you get a monthly bill? Don't they send you monthly bills? You get it? So it's the full moon that's the first day of the month, not the dark. Really, oh my gosh. You know, even the biblical text says the full moon is the new moon, right? So the moon is your month. And you go to Wikipedia and they say, oh, the moon can't be the moon cycle. It's 28.556 days or 29 days.
From what you're saying, there is evidence that we did have more efficient ways of existing at some point, right?
Yes, it's lawful. But here's the thing about the moon. You know how they tell you it's not a full amount of days? That's because they're measuring at midnight. If you measure it at noon, you get perfect 30 or 31 days. In the summer months, you get 31 days. But here's the thing. What I mean by lawful is you don't have to go buy something. You know, remember back in the days they had those in the mechanics or the plumbers calendars with the topless women, right? Or you have to look at the stupid rectangle and know what day it is, or the Gregorian. I call it the Pope's work schedule, right? You're on the Pope's work schedule because you have the work week and the weekend, right?
Yeah.
You see the Pope's work schedule. I don't go. Oh my gosh! Look, it's septem. Septem means 7. Octo means 8, like octagon or octopus. Novum means 9, and decim means 10, like decimal. So how the hell are you getting off writing December as 12? It means 10 right in front of you. 4 of the months are actually labeled properly. So here's the thing. When you take a multiple choice question and answer test, oh, I'm going to sit down and get 4. Oh, they all must be correct. No, you have to, you see, they like doing the 4 thing, right? So they, you know, by multiple, so they give you multiple choice questions. They actually labeled the 4 months in their more correct pattern. You know, and no one's it's like, how can you write October as The 10th month. What are you doing? What's going on? This is like implied schizophrenia. No, it's not implied. It's actual schizophrenia, divided
Yeah.
spirit, divided mind.
Mm.
So the lawful just means you don't have to engage in commerce to do something. Actually, when you're using the Pope's work schedule, if you don't have someone printed out or something you bought, or you don't know what day it is,
Mm-hmm.
right? You see, also it affects the body, right? The energies go up when the moon is waning, and the moon is a whole other discussion. We've had several moons. We've had several. Yeah, this goes on and on and on and on. So I don't know where to end. This is one of these. Remember the Marx Brothers? He's playing the piano and the song. And he doesn't stop. He says, "I can't stop because I forgot the ending."
Well, how about this? We'll have to do a follow-up sometime soon, and we'll get into much more because, definitely, there's so much more we could get into. We barely scratched the surface on some of this stuff, so yes, we'll definitely have to do this again. Let's end on this. For the audience that wants to find out more about you, let them know where they can find all your content.
Let's do it in the order of my personal email is uncommonsenseradio1@gmail.com, and the 1 is numeric 1. 2 current projects. One is greekspeak.com, and it's EE on the spelling. And the other one is rated Y, and you get that at ocelli.com. You go to another, and both of these are subscription only. It's if you do both of them, it's about the price of a cable bill. The only I never wanted to do a paywall or anything like that, but I found out that people need to reciprocate, because if you give a $50,000 education in 2 hours, I mean, and in other words,
this info's priceless, man.
Yeah, and this goes out to whatever it takes to keep the thing going. And this is not for the many. This will ruin, if you consider yourself to be integrated, a normie, or social. This is toxic to you. This will destroy your life.
Yeah.
So avoid that. Yeah. So those are the 3 ways. Again, uncommonsenseradio1@gmail.com. Number 1 is my personal email. Greekspeak.com. Let's speak with a EE. And ocelli.com, rated Y. Those are the 3 ways to get, and the last 2 are the current projects. And I'd love to speak with you again. Seem to be very amicable. I've seen you before. I like what you do. I like most of your guests. And again, I'm not a public speaker. I'm not doing this to make a career or anything. I've got my cup full with all the other things that I'm doing in development. And I'd be glad to join with you again at any time.
Wonderful. This was great. We're going to definitely do it again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. See you all then.